Welcome back, Screen Crush. I'm Ryan Airy, and let's talk about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now, I walked into this movie expecting it to be overcrowded and crammed with too many cameos. This tends to happen in superhero sequels, especially in the MCU.
I got you! Sorry, I can't remember anybody's names!
So, I was pleasantly surprised to see that the cameos were in there just enough, and they actually served a story purpose. I mean, for the most part, their story purpose was to show how much of a badass Wanda is, but still, they served a purpose.
Well, that's a lame excuse for an excuse.
In a little bit, I'm going to be joined by Matt Singer and Adam Lance Garcia, but first, here's my take on the movie. Number one, I was in awe of how the movie was able to still be about Stephen Strange and exhibit his character growth. So in the first movie, Stephen had to overcome his ego and learn,
It's not about you.
but in this movie, we see why he has that massive ego. He was unable to save his sister from drowning. So, for the rest of his life, he believes that it should always be on him to help people. As Christine puts it, he always has to be the one holding the knife. So the death of Stephen's sister was a core memory for him, and that core memory defines all of his multiversal selves across the entire multiverse. So, introducing variant Stranges could have just been like a fun gag. Like in Spider-Verse, where seeing all these different genres of Spider-Man were half the fun.
My name is Peter Parker.
My name is Penny Parker.
My name is Peter Porker.
I was bitten by a radioactive spider.
pig.
But in Multiverse of Madness, each version of Strange actually serves to move his character forward. In the first scene, we see Defender Strange making the decision to kill America and steal her powers. So, for the rest of the movie, we know that this is a real danger. Stephen could turn to the dark side. And later we find out that Illuminati Strange used the Darkhold to kill Thanos, which threatened reality. And finally, we see that Sinister Strange has turned full on evil.
Things just got out of hand.
All of these Stevens show him in various stages of falling to the dark side. Now, we add in what we saw in What If, and we know that there's a real danger of Strange letting the Darkhold take control of him in the movie's final act. And now we know that an MCU hero can break bad because that's what Wanda does in this movie. Now, I do think that the movie could have done a better job of spelling out how she turned so evil, because WandaVision ends with her having an emotional catharsis and accepting her grief. But then we had that tease that she was studying the Darkhold and that it was tempting her like the One Ring. That ending made it seem like Wanda's boys were trapped somewhere in the multiverse. Not that she was going to run off and kidnap them from another mom. But Wanda sees this as acceptable because the Darkhold has taken hold of her. Another thing that I loved about this movie is just how damn Sam Raimi it was. Now, a lot of people who watch this channel may only know Raimi's work from blockbusters like the Spider-Man trilogy and Oz the Great and Powerful.
What did you just say?
Hey, Lois, hey, you peeing here?
In a moment. What did you just say?
But Raimi's roots are in low-budget horror movies. The Evil Dead trilogy is a masterpiece of horror comedy. And when Wanda is gleefully slaying the Illuminati, you can practically hear Raimi laughing from behind the camera. The movie did another important thing in regards to the whole MCU. It was able to set up the next movies, but in a way that wasn't like immediately pressing. And here's what I mean by that. The film sets up Clea and the Multiversal Crisis and Secret Wars, which we talked about in our Ending Explained video. But these aren't questions that we need answered like right away. Whereas, say, Captain America Civil War and Winter Soldier immediately changed the landscape of these movies by breaking up S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Avengers. So they changed elements that needed to be addressed in the next Marvel movie. But you could actually skip Multiverse of Madness and go straight to Love and Thunder or Wakanda Forever, and it wouldn't really matter. And that's good. It's good that the story is self-contained, contributes to the greater mythology, but it's not necessary to see it. Now, I do worry about people not seeing WandaVision and then walking into this movie because they will have no idea what the hell is happening.
I haven't a clue what's going on here, but I'll act like I do.
So, Multiverse of Madness managed to set up a few dominoes without stealing the spotlight from other movies. That's a very delicate balancing act to pull off. I do have a nitpick on the movie though. The original ending where Strange screams and he has a third eye and they cut to credits, that was awesome. It should have just ended there. I like Clea, I like the tease for more stuff and them having adventures, but it cheapens the end of this movie, which was a brilliant cliffhanger.
Things just got out of hand.
But that's just my thoughts. I'm actually joined here with two of the best. We have Matt Singer, editor-in-chief of ScreenCrush.com, and writer-producer Adam Lance Garcia. Hope you're both doing good. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Matt, let's start with you. What's your take on this movie?
Well, I liked it. I enjoyed it. I had a good time. I thought the weakest parts of it were all sort of the beginning. I was a little nervous in the first few scenes, but I felt it really sort of picked up steam as it went along. And by the end, I was really into it, really enjoying it. And I think for me, as a big Sam Raimi fan, the thing that I enjoyed the most was just how much it did feel to me like a Sam Raimi movie, way more than I expected. You know, like my sort of fear was like, we're going to get this movie and it's the first thing Sam Raimi has done in 9 years, and it's going to just be another Marvel movie, which is fine. I enjoy Marvel. I love Marvel, but like, you know, Sam Raimi movies are so rare now. They're like these rare jewels that we don't get our hands on very often. It's like to waste it on just kind of another Marvel movie would have been a disappointment. So I was really happy and relieved that, you know, there was a lot in this movie that really reminded me of Sam Raimi, from characters to shots to subplots. The fact that there were, you know, these magical books with evil in them and zombies running around and these kooky camera angles. It just like, you know, yes, it is still very much a Marvel movie, but it is also a Sam Raimi movie. And that really tickled me and made me quite pleased. And I thought overall they pulled it off. They did a good job. There's definitely some things to criticize. It's not a perfect movie. Definitely not my favorite Marvel movie. I did think it was better than the first Doctor Strange movie, which I'm not a huge fan of. And overall, I had a good time with it.
Yeah, and I always think that you criminally underrate the first Doctor Strange, but we don't have to get into that now. And like you, I was really surprised at how much this was a Sam Raimi movie. Like, I feel like you could have watched this right after the Evil Dead trilogy, and it would have been just seamless with some of the different... It was just so creative with the things that he brought into it. You know, even just having Bruce Campbell appear, you know, hitting himself like he does in Evil Dead was such a fun callback for, like, his old school fans. Adam, what about you? Tell us your thoughts on the movie.
It was fine, and I kind of come at this as a Marvel cynic. I've sort of lost a lot of the Marvel's lost a lot of luster to me over the last few years, and I think the Sam Raimi touches that Matt, both of you and Matt have touched upon, were some of the saving graces of this film. But I just kind of left the theater underwhelmed. There were moments that I really enjoy and little bits of like the Sam Raimi-ness that I appreciated, but as a standalone movie, I kind of felt like for a film that's called Multiverse of Madness, they really undercooked the madness and the multiverse of it all. I kept on waiting for it to get weirder. I kept on waiting for it to try something new, and I kind of felt like, well, Marvel has this opportunity to really explore new ideas and new concepts, and they're still unwilling to really paint outside their own lines. There's a lot of fan service in there that like kind of worked but could have been better. I left the theater just kind of like, that's another Marvel film where I really wanted it to feel like something a bit more special. It sounds weird, and I know, I'm sure I'm going to get it in the comments, but like, I just feel like in a lot of ways this film highlights the limitations of Marvel MCU films.
Adam, I think you raised some good points. You know, one thing you mentioned I just want to touch on is that they didn't do enough with the multiverse concept. And it's true, like they show him in America moving through these different universes, and then they land in 838, and that's pretty much where we are the rest of the movie. But it wasn't, what would you have done different? Because wouldn't there be a danger of, if you're going from multiverse to multiverse, of it feeling repetitive or just doing things for the sake of doing them? Like, what is it you would have liked to have seen with that aspect we didn't get?
I mean, look, I'm coming from someone who grew up watching Sliders and who, really loves Into the Spider-Verse. And I also really, I enjoy No Way Home for a significant portion. I kind of felt like there was this chance to really get weirder and weirder and weirder. Like that one sequence when they're flashing through all these different universes when he first enters the multiverse. I kind of kept on hoping that would be more of this film, that like you would go from universe to universe, bouncing around with more increasing creativity, like really exploring how weird it can get. Like, and look, I think with What If, what I really enjoyed about that show in general was the fact that even though they kind of kept to a certain stylistic format because they had to for production reasons, I really like that every different universe felt distinct from the other. Like when things got weird, they got weirder. And this, it just felt like I just wanted to see them break the mold, and I don't think they did. I mean, even I think it was like, what was it, 838 or 383 or whatever it was, the universe where they meet the Illuminati, where like the whole, you know, it felt kind of similar to every MCU the MCU that we know, but it just had different stand-ins. Yes, it had Professor X. Yes, it had Captain Carter. Yes, it had John Krasinski fan casting Mr. Fantastic. But it didn't feel fundamentally different than the universe that we've come to know. And I really wish that, you know, maybe we had stopped there and gone someplace else and really explore like how different these universes could get.
Yeah, like maybe if they're fugitives and the Illuminati are having to chase them through different realities, so we get to see Mr. Fantastic do something besides, you know, get cleaned up by Wanda and everything. I could see that.
Yeah.
You know, I was...
Yeah, can I just say something though? I mean, the movie does end with we can talk about spoilers, correct? I'm not going to ruin anything for anyone here. I mean, the movie does end with an undead version of the main character who has a cape made out of like ghosts, defeating like wild monsters on top of Wundagore Mountain. So I don't think it's like not that weird. I certainly see what you're saying. Yes, it's not Sliders. They don't go to 100 different places, but you know, it is a movie. Like, it's pretty jam-packed with stuff to begin with. So I hear your point, but I think you have to give the movie a little credit for being pretty darn weird and goofy and dorky and strange. You know, like all of the stuff. Like they introduce beloved characters from you know, throughout Marvel and then slaughter them horrifically. And I think most people that are going to watch this are going to know, well, this is an alternate reality. They could just introduce another version of Professor Xavier or Captain Carter or whoever it is. But I think some people who just go in to see this movie because they like Marvel movies is going to go, wait, there's Mr. Fantastic and now he's dead? Like, I think that they doing that sort of stuff might actually throw some people too. So you are right that this is like, Marvel does have a formula. I don't want to give them too much credit. There is a formula and they do stick to it very carefully. But I do think you have to at least acknowledge there's some wacky stuff in this movie by the end of it. That's all I have to say.
And I think you're right. There are a lot of like whack stuff that happens in it. But I guess it's just like, and this comes down to my taste. And I think that's very important to note. Like, I really just wanted it to go even further than it went. I felt like all the really cool Sam Raimi stuff, like, you know, seeing Mr. Fantastic unravel with like a polio string cheese, like things like that. Like, I was like, okay, like here it is. Like, this is the beginning of something really exciting. I wanted it to go further. And I think, and I was thinking about this when I watched Ryan's Ending Explained video. I think for better or for worse, they're saving that for whatever this big multiverse climax is going to be. And that both excites me and bums me out, because it's like, you have a movie that's called The Multiverse of Madness, but we're going to save the real multiverse and real madness for, you know, Avengers, the Kang War, or Battle World, or Secret Wars, or whatever they decide to call it. So I guess that kind of comes down to the Marvel format, where like they're always teasing the next thing. And so that always, what happens for me is like, I'm not getting satisfied in these standalone movies as much as I would like. I think that's kind of like what I came away with. Like, I understand, just again, I'm going to, you know, praise Ryan here, because I think it really highlighted what's going to happen next because of his Ending Explained video. It's like, okay, yeah, I can see it now. I understand the Marvel machine and what their, you know, their quote unquote plan is to get even weirder eventually. But it bums me out that like in this one movie that was promised to be a multiverse of madness, it's just like a couple of universes, and it kind of gets mad. It just, you know, I really wish they would just kind of go all in once in a while for a standalone movie, as opposed to making you anticipate the next movie and the next story and the next story. And again, that is a winning business strategy. I have to give them all the kudos for that. Like, it clearly works. I just wanted to go to a movie and have a like a satisfying movie experience, like everything everywhere all at once. Like I was hoping for something like that, but with superheroes, and I kind of got that.
Well, so to Matt's rebuttal, I've seen at this point with Walking Dead in movies hundreds of hours of zombie entertainment. I have never seen a zombie give an inspirational speech to a teenage superhero at the climax of a movie that also resolved the main character's story arc of learning how to trust others. That to me, like, you know, a great movie needs to have like 3 moments that truly blow you away and then no bad ones. I forget who said that originally. I think it might have been Ebert. But that for me was like the great moment of this where I was like, I've never seen this before. Like I was going through my back catalog. This is a totally new experience. So
it's Howard Hawks, director Howard Hawks. He said every great movie has to have 3 good scenes and no bad scenes.
I think I read that in Ebert's review of Mission to Mars. That's the one with Tim Robbins, right? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So famously, a movie with 3 great scenes and no bad scenes. Mission to Mars by Brian De Palma.
Well, it's got a lot of bad scenes in it. That's the whole point. It doesn't matter. So look.
Yeah,
if any of you would like to see our talk back on Mission to Mars, we're going to put that up tomorrow, but not right now. So you both kind of touched on this, and it's one thing that I was worried about, like I talked about earlier, and that's the movie being too crowded. All these, because we were all like scouring the trailers for that's Professor X's voice, and here's Captain Carter on the shield. You can see this, and I was very happy with the fact that it wasn't just like we move over here. And there's Deadpool. We move over here, and here's Logan, fan cast Daniel Radcliffe. You know, I'm glad that there weren't too many, and that they all did serve a story purpose. It was to die super quick, but at least it was there for a reason. Were you guys happy with what we got in the Illuminati? Were you expecting it to be like more like the Illuminati in the comics? Where did you land on like the amount of cameos and things like that in the movie? Matt, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, I thought it was a good amount. You know, you're right. You do run the risk of, you know, everyone wants to see surprising people and, you know, have that sort of, moment in the theater. That's always a lot of fun. But if you have too many of them, 1, it devalues them because they become less special. And 2, it's supposed to be a movie and a story and not just a collection of, you know, like you're here to watch the characters go on this journey. And, you know, you do want to focus on that. And so, yeah, I thought generally it was a good mix. You had those surprises, some of which, you know, had been teased, some of them hadn't been teased. And they didn't overwhelm, you know, the characters. I did think that Strange, especially for a movie that's basically just him running around the whole time, I thought it did do a pretty solid job of making it about something in his character, not just about him running from point A to point B. You know, that line about "Are you happy?" being repeated over and over again, and the ways he responds to it or doesn't respond to it, or you know, reflects it back on the people he's with, and how his story, his dilemmas, his feelings kind of dovetail with Wanda, who I'm sure we're going to talk about. I thought all of that actually made the movie feel a little richer than maybe it even actually was, or that it could have been in lesser hands with maybe a weaker script or a weaker director or what have you, or just more of a focus on you know, here's the next surprise person, here's the next surprise person. I you know, you mentioned before that wonderful moment at the end with the zombie Doctor Strange sort of giving a heartfelt "you can do it" moment to America, and it's like, I can't say I got choked up, I had tears in my eyes, but it was like a surprisingly sentimental moment, and you do sort of like, you get caught up in that, like you actually care about the characters. And I think that's you know, another thing that Sam Raimi is really great at, is he's really good at making these big movies that have people in them, you know, like that you care about, that you want to see succeed, you know, and just the idea of having a Benedict Cumberbatch in this scare makeup, you know, being like, "You can do this, you can do it, kid," you know, like, it's such a Sam Raimi thing. The idea of this incredibly goofy image that is telling you this incredibly heartfelt, sentimental, positive, believe in yourself thing. I mean, it really might be one of the like singular images of Sam Raimi's entire career. Like, if you had to sum up Sam Raimi in one shot, it might be a zombie hero telling a teenage girl, "You can do it. Like, that might actually be the one stand-in for his whole career. So, yeah, I do think, to get back around to the question you actually asked me, I do think it did a good job of balancing cameos and surprise kind of teases with having a story and a dilemma and having these characters go through this emotional journey over the course of the film.
Adam, how about you? In particular, I'm curious what you guys also think about John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic. And, you know, I wanted to hear your thoughts on the cameos, but especially his performance. Was it fan casting? Is he now going to be Reed Richards? Like, where are you landed on this?
I think with, like, the Illuminati, I think my issue with it is that it all kind of happens at once on this one universe, in this one place. I kind of think, like, you know, I keep on thinking about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and I even think about No Way Home, where it felt like all the cameos and all the other alternate versions of these characters really helped infuse these characters' journey. And I felt like with the way the Illuminati was presented in this film, it all happens, again, in one just giant chunk. And because it happens in this one chunk of a scene, or this one sequence, for in this one sequence, it doesn't feel like it really builds. I kind of felt like I just wish that there was more of an escalation of the multiverse, that escalation of the multiverse of things getting weirder. And I've kind of touched on that before, but like this cameos and like getting weirder and more like weirder fan casting or weirder whatever that could sort of happen in parallel to Strange's and Wanda's journey and America's journey. And again, there are elements of the weirdness. We've touched upon the zombie Strange, and things like that that do have emotional impact. But I kind of wish that was happening in concurrence with the multiverse, like these characters exploring it, as opposed to just doubling back onto what are essentially about 3 or 4 different universes. And like so it was fine. It was cute. I applauded seeing Haley Atwell as Captain Carter. She's one of the best creations that Ashley Bradley brought into What If, and I'm glad to see that actually, be realized on screen. It was nice seeing Patrick Stewart in the X-Men 97 wheelchair, and hearing the music. That was fun. And the John Krasinski Fantastic Four, for me personally, it was one of those moments of like, this is why you shouldn't let the audience or the fans necessarily cast these movies, which is a weird thing to say when you have it in conjunction with Patrick Stewart's Professor X, because everyone, if you grew up around that time, Wizard Magazine was always fan casting Patrick Stewart as Professor X. We lucked out in that he was the perfect person for that role, whereas the John Krasinski Mr. Fantastic, he was just there. I think, and this might be like looking into production of how they probably did it. Like they, and I'm going to tell you, Ryan, like, feel free to cut this, but like my theory of how this Illuminati scene was shot was they shot everything with Benedict Cumberbatch, and they shot everyone separately when they're like, all right, who can we get and how can we have it? Because you hear a lot of their introductions happen off screen. You don't see anyone necessarily say that. So they're all shot in different, like, isolation on their own. They're all composited in together, and it never felt like that scene really gelled together. That's my theory on how it was produced, and I think that's probably why John Krasinski just felt so flat in the role. Yeah. I don't know. It was fine. It was fine. I think that's my biggest thing. I come away with this from the cameos the same way I come away with a lot of the Marvel films. It's like, they're fine. I kept on wanting more, even from the cameos. I wanted more substance from them than what we got.
Matt, what did you think about Reed? Is he your guy, or go ahead?
Yeah.
I mean, I just thought it was brilliant because, yeah, you have people who have been like clamoring for it, and Marvel gave it to you. But they did it in a way that, did I think he was incredible as Reed Richards? No, definitely not. Would I want to see someone else in the role in the Fantastic Four movie? I mean, sure. Like, if it was him, okay. But it's not like I walked away from this saying, oh, he has to play Reed Richards in the Fantastic Four movie. But to me, that's the brilliance of it, is like they gave the fans what they wanted in this little nothing cameo role where he got turned into little mini rubber bands in 5 minutes. It's like they gave you what you wanted. Great. Now we can cast who we think is the best Reed Richards for the actual movie. Which to me is like, that's the whole point of doing like alternate reality stuff and throwaway gags like this, is you get to kind of play with it and have fun with it and see John Krasinski as Reed Richards. You can't say that they didn't give it to you.
Yeah.
There it is. He got his chance, and I didn't think he was all that great. But you're right. I have a feeling that what you're describing about the production is probably accurate. He's probably spent a day alone on a green screen, and that's probably not the best way to get into playing this huge, iconic character. But that's okay. That's really, like, that's what this role was. So, fine. I thought it was clever because it was sort of like that whole room was like the fan casting room. The Illuminati was like the home of all those things. Like, here's Patrick Stewart, here's John Krasinski, here's Lashana Lynch's Captain Marvel. It's like, all, you know, here's live action Captain Carter. It's like all the things that fans say they want, they got it in that. Here's Black Bolt with his, you know, looking actually like Black Bolt and not speaking and just like actually, you know, like really being like comic book Black Bolt. Like the dorkiest stuff that you want, we put it into this scene, right? And you're correct. It was all basically in one scene, but the way to, like, the advantage of that is it's like we put it in this one scene and then we put it away. It's like it doesn't have to consume the entire movie. We don't have to bank a gigantic franchise on John Krasinski being Reed Richards. We can just have him do it as a fun little nod and move on our way. And so that's, to me, like, that was sort of the charm of that scene. Was it was sort of like Marvel acknowledging all of these things, giving them a little moment to play, and then we're going to move on with our story.
I was going to say, no, Matt makes a really good point. I mean, like, you know, I think I'll have to concede that, like, yeah, like they allowed them to have their cake and eat it too. It's like, yeah, we gave you what you wanted, now we can do our own thing. And that's a very valid point.
It's always been the fun of the comic book What If or multiverse stories that the writers just had total freedom to murder, like endlessly murder any hero they want. It doesn't count because it's a fake story. Like Alan Moore said, you know, aren't they all imaginary stories? That whole scene with the Illuminati reminded me of Revenge of the Sith, when Yoda walks into Palpatine's office and the Imperial Guards are there. And we grew up watching Star Wars and Jedi. All those Imperial Guards must be badasses. I can't wait to see this fight. And he just shoves them off to the side. Like, that was kind of, that's the kind of thing where I think a filmmaker must be, like, relieved that they didn't have to do a big thing. It's like Indiana Jones shooting the sky with a sword. But it's also just a lot of fun for fans to go like, oh, you got me. It's almost like the your mom jokes we do in the videos. All right, and that'll be the last word. Guys, thanks both for joining me. This has been a great conversation. Adam, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Adam Lance Garcia. And if you kind of want to see a little bit of my own multiverse stories, you can check out Green Llama Unbound. That is on Amazon and at your favorite bookseller. It's from Moonstone Books. It's a superhero story. There are elder gods, and there's a little bit of multiverse that will pay off in a really interesting way in the novel that I'm currently writing, which is Green Llama Redemption.
And Matt, how about you? Where can the people find you?
Screen Crush, screencrush.com. If you've watched all of Ryan's videos and you want more, we've got lots of other Doctor Strange articles and lists and features all up there. And you can follow me on Twitter at Matt Singer.
Great. Thanks, guys, for joining us very much. And we want to hear from all of you. So please leave us a comment down below, or you can add any of us on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash the bell. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.